Shalom Aleichem. We're going to start the class now. Had some good prayer. I had good prayer. And now we're going to go into the teaching. But let us remember that Yeshua now is defining the purpose of righteousness, the fulfilling of righteousness, that he came to give us that purpose. He said he came to Kayam, to fulfill. And he told us to Kayam and to Lomid, the commandments. And that those that do are called Gedol, great, in the kingdom of heaven, Shamayim. So we want to be great. We don't want to be without greatness. Okay? Don't think that the acquisition of greatness from Yahweh is being arrogant. No, that's what we were taught in chains. Don't be an arrogant Negro. But we want to be a great son of Elohim. Okay? We want to be great in fulfilling the righteousness of Torah. And those, he said, that take away from the sayings of Torah, the sayings of his commandments, are being habal, without understanding. They have no understanding of what this thing is all about. You see that everywhere. Okay? I've seen it in my days in the church. I've seen people with great misunderstanding. Okay? And I couldn't flow on just emotionalism. I needed knowledge, wisdom, and insight into the will, the razun of Yahweh, his desire, his pleasure, what pleases him. And this is what we have to get our mind to, because so many are off on other things, okay, that the greatest of all teachings and the premise of the scriptures is to teach righteousness and to constrict sin. Constrict it until it's dead, that we might know him, the power of his resurrection, the conformity of his death. In fulfilling righteousness, we put to death the yitzhahara, or the evil inclinations of our nature. You understand? This is what we're here to do. We want to put it to death. Not a doctrine that says it's okay. It's okay to commit a little murder, hatred, slander, gossip. It's all right. It's okay to be a glutton. It's okay to be all these things that Yah said we should not be. It's okay, because we're covered by the blood. That's not a doctrine that we want to infuse within our heart. A justification for sin instead of a justification for righteousness. We want to live righteous. Zadik. He is called, and his name shall be called Yahuwah Zadiknu. He is our righteousness. And this teaching is to teach us what to constrict and what to receive from Yahweh by living within divine culture. That is, a pattern of existence that is in agreement with the divine will. But if you don't know the divine will, if you're caught up into the prestige of being a minister, or the prestige that Hebrews was black, or the, trying to find a identity. We only have one identity. We're sons of Elohim. Okay, we are those who seek to possess and to receive divine nature and to be transformed into a new creation. What do I mean by new creation? I mean a person who is no longer governed by Hoshek, darkness. Those things that offend his Torah and the righteous standard of his Torah. These things need to be put to death, and he's given us the power to do. He told his disciples, what is his Talmud? He said, I shall give you power I will give you power. Dunamis in the Greek. Gebura in the Hebrew. The ability to do everything that I have taught you to do. Okay? There's no compromise in that. And that's what we want to understand, that we need to tap into this spiritual, divine power. And stop thinking that it's innately within us because of the color of our skin or because of the land mass that we came from. Okay? As I always say, I am an African nationalist. I believe in my culture. I believe in taking back what was taken from me. The culture of my diet, the culture of my language. Okay? I don't believe in being a puppet for a system that has proven itself a system of hatred, has proven itself a system of idolatry, has proven itself a system of promiscuity, has proven itself a system of covetousness and greed, which is idolatry. That's all capitalism teaches you, is to be greedy. Me, mine, I, instead of the power of we. One body with many members, functioning to achieve one purpose, the hope of glory, the hope of being transformed beyond the form of the flesh into the fourth form of the spirit. See, we need to come out of elementary teachings. We've been studying so much and still babes. That's all we got in the pulpit is a bunch of babies. Oh, I know you got needs. You're supposed to be teaching them how to ascend beyond the consciousness of need into the consciousness of fulfillment. But that's all they teach you. Oh, I know you got needs. I know you need something. Need, instead of fulfill, and teaching people how to enter into that power to fulfill. Okay? They feel. Blessed is he that hungers, for he shall be what? Filled. This is the promise of the covenant. To hunger is to pursue. Blessed is those that pursue to obtain righteousness. They shall be filled. You got to teach people how to pursue to obtain. Get out of this positive thinking and get into divine thinking. Get out of the prestige of position and get into the humbleness of approach. You see, you got to be humble to approach Yah. That means you have to be willing to be compliant to what he says you should do in order to attain his full will and desire for you. So now Yeshua goes off and he starts breaking down and revealing this righteous standard of the commandments. He started opening it up a little bit more so unto the intent of the heart. Okay? So in the last one he said that our righteousness should yotar, be more plenteous than the righteousness of the Pharisees and the wise ones. Okay? Kokamim, the wise ones. It should be yotar. It should be gadol, greater than theirs. That means those who are stuck in this naturalistic religion of rules, regulations, and rituals. Okay? No, he wants us to transcend beyond the rules, regulation of rituals, digest from those rituals the divine revelation that is in them, and then appropriate them to display the character of these rituals. To be washed in the washing of the water. To become a light bearer of his menorah. To eat or appropriate the divine good of the divine bread. And to be an intercessor before the altar of incense. Interceding. Supplicating. And in constant prayer towards Yahweh for the reception of divine nature and the humbling of the souls to receive it. See, the humble soul is the one that prays. Okay? If my people would bow down and worship. Bow down and pray. I will open up the windows of heaven. That's a very simple concept. The reason heaven is closed up to you and you can't see things on a spiritual level is because of the lack of prayer. You can't break through those bondages within you emotionally, so you create a doctrine to justify the existence of them bondages in you and pretend that they're normal. No, sin is not normal. Sin is a perversive state. Okay? So now we've justified homosexuality, we justified gossip and slander. We always got a reason for doing something against Yahweh's will. And then we want to call it normal. It's not normal. It's not normal to negate and to minimize and to slander and to gossip. These are dysfunctional characteristics that we need to contest before the altar of incense. I'm going to teach on that out of the book of Revelations one day. And maybe when we get to the part when Yeshua started teaching about prayer, and I think it's Revelations 8 or 7. Revelations 8. But I'm going to show you the revelation of divine response in relationship with prayer. But let's go on and see what Yeshua is teaching us. He's taught us the purpose of his coming was to establish righteousness, justice, and to fulfill it. To bring forth those, a new covenant by which we ourselves can receive the very same power he possessed to do what he did. That is, to fulfill the righteousness of the Torah. Even Paul taught that, Romans 8:4. Okay? Paul taught the keeping of the commandments. 1 Corinthians, I think it's 7:14 or something like that. Neither circumcision nor uncircumcision matter, but the keeping of the commandments. All right? He was not anti-Torah. That's some Euro lie that, to create this new gospel they got. Justification, just believe, But we're not going to get off into that, Let's get off into the truth now. Okay, let's take it back to the original cultural foundation and language that this gospel was given to us and get off into the truth. But Yeshua said what? He said, Chalo, Shametim Mach, Shanomar, Lekedi Mulim. Okay? Lo, Yirzak, Ne Eshir, Zak, Kayib, Hu, Mishfat, Mut. So what was he saying? He was breaking down something. He said, and not hear you. What? That which they said. Now he said something here that Yannick, get him. Now he said something here that we need to, it's a word here that we need to really understand. This right here. Le kedimunim, from the word kedim. Okay. Now this is put in the masculine plural. The masculine plural personifies the word. It can mean those of the east. Those of the east, or those, the east represents the habitation of Elohim, those of the habitation of the divine. Okay? Those of the east, this word here, this is the root word, kedim, which means the east. But here is le kedimunim. Le kedimunim. Kedimunim. Or kedemunim. Okay? I'm not sure on the vowel sound on that, but it's from kedim. Le kedemunim. Okay? So, it can also be translated ancient. So it can say the ancient ones. Okay? Now in the qualitative form, it can mean the ancient one. In the qualitative form. But I'm seeing more the quantitative form here. Okay? So it's Li Kede Munim Lo Yartsak. Ne Yartsak Lo, not murder or slaughter or slaughter. Okay? So it says, and have you not heard what that they have said from the ancient ones, or from the ones of the east, or the ones who were of the habitation of the divine? Not murder, not slaughter life. Okay? That's a commandment. Okay? So Yeshua was teaching what? The mitzvos, the commandments. That's all the gospel of Yeshua is about. He's teaching the righteousness of Torah. He's teaching the commandments, the precepts of the commandments, the ideals that are contained within the commandments. Okay? He didn't come teaching another doctrine. He came to reveal the true intent of the word that was already given. Okay? It says, and they that murder, okay, we translate that. They that, right here, this is a plural, that would mean they. That's a suffix, okay, with a plural connotation. It's sheer, that, or which. So as they that yirsa, from retsa, yirsa, and they that you slaughter, and they that, let me just say, they that slaughter, so that's what the word retsa means, to slaughter, okay? It means to kill without any purpose or meaning, kill for pleasure, okay? To take pleasure in your killing, that's what they do, they slaughter you. You know, they run into a village and just kill everybody. Slaughter. No reason, no, it wasn't even necessary. Unnecessary killing. Just to appease or to satisfy that animal instinct, that darkness within us, that pleasure of evil within a person. Kayib, life, from kaya or kai. He or she, mishpat, is judged. Is judged death. Okay. So Yeshua is saying, look, you have heard from old time, okay, that he that slaughters life, okay, enters into the judgment of death. So you're gonna be surprised next week when we do the next verse what Yeshua or Yeshahu calls murder. It goes a little bit beyond just killing the body. Okay? It goes into the intent of the heart, the attitude. Okay? See, when it says slaughter life, that goes into gossip and slander. Okay? Because when you create slander against someone, that one might lose his reputation, his livelihood, his ministry, friendships and relationships. You're destroying his life. You're slaughtering his life. And all you get out of it is some whimsical pleasure of seeing someone destroyed. It's that slave mentality. Okay? I came into a conclusion back in 2004. I said, hold up, man. Why? You know, I kept running into this stoppage, this contestment, you know, of my growth and development. I mean, I was doing good things, and people would contest it. They would sabotage it. Wait, what am I doing wrong? Always reflect it back on me, because that's what we're taught. Always reflect back on you, even when you see that it's this malicious intent towards you. You know, well, it must be me. You know, that's that self-hatred we have. We got to be at fault. Okay? We got to cause people to hate us, to despise us. We're the cause of people slandering our name. We're the cause of everything that's evil that happened to us. We're the cause of it. Okay? That's a trick of the devil, a trick of the Rashim, a psychological trick. Until I came one day and I seen this pattern of behavior of negation and minimization that came out of my community. It's constant, even in my family. My mother and my brother, my nieces and my nephews, this constant reactionary theme that immediately negated anything that wasn't in their common understanding of things. Okay? A built-in self-hatred. That they would react when you try to progress beyond that perimeter to negate and to minimize it and to make you feel small, least. So that you would lose confidence in what you were doing. And they call your confidence arrogance. See? And it took me years before I seen it. I always tried to do surgery on myself. Well, it must be me. Let me change this. Let me change this. Until I said, hold up. Okay. When they got me in Gary, Indiana. Hold up. Right? Wait a minute. This ain't me. Okay? This is a redundant pattern of behavior that I'm constantly dealing with. Went to Phoenix, the same thing. And I did nothing wrong. Gossip came. Speculations, presumptions. They asked me to take a program. I put it together and it was successful. Next thing you know, they wanted to negate it because I used the name Yeshua. I said, well, that's his name. I've learned that. I use that. Okay. Well, you can't use it. Well, I'm not going to be in a box. Okay. I study from the Hebrew letters. Okay. So when I read the gospel, the Basarah, it says Yeshahu or Yeshua. Well, that's the name I use. Okay. Now, if you want to continue using Jesus or Jesus, that's entirely up to you. Well, you got to submit to the pastor. Wait a minute. I submit to Yahweh. Okay, I don't submit to a standard that is given me by a man. Okay, I'll flow with you. I'll work with you until you tell me to compromise. Next thing I know, I was a faggot. I was this. I was that. I was that. You know, I was contested almost physically by members of the church. Gossip came. I didn't even know the gossip was out there until somebody brought me. And next thing I know, I'm almost on the streets, depressed, discouraged, wanting to run away from I don't want, you know what I mean? They killed something in me because I was motivated. You see what I'm saying? And because I would not fit myself into that box, okay, we got to get rid of him. Because a slave will never leave the plantation. The one who is satisfied in his slavery, the one who is satisfied with human tradition, with a pattern of righteousness that is common to the flesh. He's not going to leave the plantation. And he's not going to contest the system. He's not going to confront the contradictions in the system. He'll talk about them. He'll complain about them. But when you say, okay, let's build something, let's build our own system, oh, well, I got a football game to watch. Praise the Lord. Y'all make a way. All the cliches come. All the cliches that cover our cowardness comes up. When you tell them that you're eating a junk food diet is killing you, and you give them the true and proper science of the body and of health and nutrition, oh, I want to change, until you tell them, well, you can't have that pork chop no more. See, the slave wants his pork chop. Satisfies his flesh, his appetite. Oh, it tastes so good. Never consider that it's poison. Never consider that Hostess Twinkie is poison. And then the system gave him a poison. They gave him a cigarette. Okay, cigarettes are bad. You quit smoking cigarettes, you'll be healthy. Now, me and my wife, we know that's not true. We talked about that last night. I'd rather see you smoke a cigarette than to eat a Hostess Twinkie and a couple of pies after you done ate some starchy white potatoes and pork chops. You've done more damage to your body in that one meal than that cigarette will ever do. Okay? So we're murdering ourselves. We're slaughtering ourselves because we are cowards. Okay? Because we are afraid to step outside of the box that the system has conditioned us to function in. So we put on this aesthetic thing and not cleanse out of us those Yetzer Hara, evil inclinations that produces murderous actions, gossiping, slander, negating the good in others, minimizing the good in others, ignoring the good in others. See, that has an effect on people who are trying to do good, and you say, oh, that ain't nothing. So you just murdered that good in them, or you attempted murder. If you're successful, which in most cases you are, that's why we got so many depressed and insecure and dysfunctional relationships, because it's a relationship filled with negations and minimizations, because in the supremacist culture, everyone is taught to exalt their will above everybody else's will. Okay? So if he know a word you don't know, then you go learn 2 words so that you can be a little bit smarter than him. So you tell everybody, oh, he don't know nothing. Look, let me show you. When you can both put it all together and create a we power instead of an I power, because I power always negates the we power. So now you're a bunch of chickens with your head run off, then you make up an ideology to do that. See, those are murderers, constantly murdering, killing, slaughtering, things that bring life. Okay? And Yeshua deals with the cultural element and the attitude of this in the next verse. It's going to amaze and surprise some people that it is this verse of Scripture that made me see the evils of supremacist culture. It's an evil system. I talked about it with Brother Zadayel. We had a little discussion, okay, about the whole psychosis of the race consciousness, which is a psychosis in itself, a mental illness. And when you look at the pattern of behavior that comes from this psychosis, you'll see it's a attitude of murder. Ratsak. Okay? So you got this here, which means you, that's connected with the resh, right? So it's yirzak. 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 But when you take the suffix off, it's ratsak. Murder, slaughter. So he said, you murder life. She is judged with death. See, death produces death. What you do produces that same quality within you, and it multiplies and ferments and germinates and leavenates within you until you are entered into a reprobate state, a state of no return. And that's where a lot of our community is. We're in a reprobate state, a state of no return, a state beyond repentance. Okay? Don't want to hear about Elohim and the truth come to you. Don't want to, all your attention is the satisfying and the fulfilling of a selfish, narcissistic desire to bring you the feeling of self-importance and gratification. I see it all the time, especially among ministers. People who I respect going that way. I had somebody tell me, they said, well, when they knew me when I was a young minister, they said, well, you could have been one of the biggest ministers, because, you know, people love to hear me speak. I was a good speaker in the church. But as y'all revealed more of his will, and I saying, well, hold on, wait a minute. And I started teaching righteousness. I started teaching discipline. I started teaching obedience. You know, even in the church I was started teaching along this line. I started looking away from vicarious sacrifice to exemplary sacrifice, because that's what the word teaches. Okay? Yeshua told me to carry my tree too. Not just to depend on his. That accomplished something for him and inaugurated the new covenant. But in order for me to accomplish what he accomplished, then I have to follow the steps and the procedures that he followed. Okay? If you want to learn martial arts, you don't go and study baseball. If you want to learn how to be a basketball player, you don't go and study golf. And that's what they're asking you to do. They're giving you a doctrine of social science in biblical terminology. They say that the moral ethics and the culture of the Torah is abolished. That's not what Yeshua said. He said, I came to fulfill it. Then he told us to fulfill it. Using the same Hebrew term, kayam or kayam. Okay? Fulfill. And to what? Lomid, to teach it. Okay? Who do you know is teaching the commandments? Who do you know is teaching obedience? Not even the Hebrews are doing it. All they're teaching is Hebrews was black. Yeah. They still caught into that race psychosis. They haven't even found the way out of that. You know, the doctrine of race is only 400 years old. Back in the times of Yeshua and the times of Moses, there was no concept of a race, different species of man, one being superior and one being inferior to another. That concept didn't even exist. It's just 400 years old. And when these people was writing from the Spirit, they weren't even thinking about nothing called race. It didn't exist. It's a whole new ideal that has brought nothing but an avalanche of murders to the world. It's the slaughter of life. And I stand against it, and I stand boldly against it. And I'll never turn. And next week, after we do the study next week, you'll see why I stand against it and why I'm so hard on it. Maybe next week or the week after, because I do one week, we just do one verse at a time. But those who were in the East, to be in the East is to be in who was from the East, or in the East, or towards the East. These ones, the Eastern ones, are those who are in a constant influx of reception of divine nature, who are able to display, to show the divine name or character of Yahweh in their life and in their actions. They said, Lo Yartzak. Don't slaughter life. Okay? They taught this. This is what they said. This is what they taught the man, a divine standard. Lo Yirzak. Okay? They taught this. And that those that do this, those that are in a constant slaughter of life, of reputation, gossip and slander, malicious intent towards human life, they're worthy of what? Moot, death. Okay? And you can't just erase it off the books and decorate it. Because what we don't see, we see the smiles and, but when your eyes get open, you see beyond those smiles and you say this is still a system of hatred. This is still a culture of hatred. It's still a religion of idolatry. Western Christianity is not Christianity. I'm sorry for you who are still caught up in it. It's not Christian. It's not what Yeshua taught. And if you take and listen to these messages who are still trapped in there, and these so-called Hebrews who are teaching race instead of righteousness, if you listen to these messages and listen to Yeshua, what Yeshua really taught, it might give you the power and the ability, if you receive it, to lift yourself above this race psychosis that we're caught in, this religious nihilism that we're caught in. Oh, just wait and be still. Then they go to Moses. Moses told the children of Israel, wait and be still for the salvation. But they forget the part where Yahweh came behind Moses and said, what are you doing, man? Tell the people to get up and move forward. Yahweh moves through active obedience, not to passive, oh Lord, make a way. That's slave attitude. That's a depressed attitude. Yahweh moves through his people. It says his voice goes forth before his army. What does an army do? An army is a fighting machine. It fights. He calls his people a army. It's fighting for something. It's overcoming something. It's seeking to obtain something, the possession and the inheritance of something. It's not standing still waiting for some magnificent event in the sky where you're going to get wings and fly up in some cloud and remain there all your life. These are metaphorical terminologies, and this is how prophets spoke. They spoke in what we call correspondent language. Okay? But we've been so educated and conditioned within this mythological supremacist ideal of the word that complements their system and not Yahweh's will. A system of hatred. Well, all black people are cursed because of the curse of Cain. Wasn't even dealing with that. Back then, everybody was black. If he just cursed black people, and he cursed Yefet, he cursed everybody. Everybody was black. Everybody was, they was in Africa. He was African people. Israel is a part of Africa. Akubula. Okay, we need to understand the deception that we've been under so we can free our mind, and in freeing our minds and open up our minds, put all this falsehood and all these psychoses and insecurities that we gain from this psychosis to the side. But you can only do it by the power of the Ruach HaKadosh, and contacting and relating and receiving, embodying. You are a shulchan, a tabernacle of Yahuwah. Read the book. You are the temple of the Holy Spirit. You are the temple of Elohim. You are the temple that is being built for the dwelling of the Spirit. But he that murdereth, he that hateth, is a murderer. And anyone who joins hands with a system of hatred is a traitor. By ever what name you call yourself, Christian, Hebrew, Muslim, if you join hands with a system, no matter how pretty it looks, no matter how much technology they boast in, you join hands with a system of hatred, you are a murderer. You're part of that generation. Okay? No. Come out from among them, my people, and touch not what is unclean. He that hateth is a murderer, and no murderer has eternal life. So I had to think one day, I said, hold up, now who taught us this Christianity? That, from my point of view, has proven itself to be fallible. Okay? Who taught us his Christianity? The same person that was raping our women, the same person that was enslaving us in the most brutal mafia that history can probably ever see. It shouldn't even be called slavery. Not according to what traditional slavery in Africa and Asia was. It was civilized. This was a mafia, a destruction, and meant to destroy the very nature of the human being. A system that carries itself over and over and redesigns itself and refashions itself under the cloak of religion, and sets up a idol to worship, a doctrine that says you can be saved and go to heaven and still live in sin and hatred. Ku Klux Klans call themselves Christians. You understand? You can disguise hatred with religion, whether it's black hatred against brown people, brown hatred against yellow people. Hatred is hatred. It is a system of murder. And that's the end result. If they're not murdering your body, they're murdering your mind through miseducation. If they're not murdering your mind, they're murdering your heart by constantly criticizing, demeaning any attempt of arising to the manifestation of good. Any good you try to do, oh, that nigga ain't nothing. Oh, you ain't nothing. Oh, you'll never be nothing. They pick and choose their little idols to follow. And most of them that they follow are those who hold hands with the system. They can get a big following. I can get a big following. All I need to do is look like Leave It to Beaver. Take on the religious fashion of the world. Okay, but I choose to have these few students. I choose to be honorable. Okay? So we know that from the time of the Kadim. Now, when was the time of the Kadim? The time of the Kadim goes back to the book of Genesis. It says that the garden was from the Kadim. It says that the sons of Elohim left the Kadim and came among the women and children and birth. Okay. The word Kadim is used. It's a very important word, and as you Learn the Hebrew language and learn how to read the word in the Hebrew, and you'll see that. Hold up, man. This English stuff ain't giving me what I need to see clearly. Okay? So they were called what? Yeshua called them Kedemunim. 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 From the root Kedim. Okay? Those of the east. Those of the holy habitation. Those who possess, who are Shukans of Yahweh, who possess the quality of divine nature and character. They taught us. Okay. Lo. Yiddersak. Not you slaughter life. But now Yeshua is going to teach us that not only should we not kill the body, but there's a certain attitude that kills the soul. And those also are worthy Mishpat Mut, are in the judgment of death, that have been judged to be dead, spiritually dead. And these are the people who we follow. These are the people that govern us. These are the people we admire, whether black or white, who teach hate. You teach hate, everybody around you. Everybody running after you. But when you teach the transcendence beyond this race psychosis, don't nobody want to hear it, because more people want to be slaves than free. It is very comfortable to be slaves. No responsibility being a slave. You can sin and go to heaven. You can practice this wicked capitalism and go to heaven. You can be greedy. Well, Yahweh blessed me with this big ministry. And everybody in there still in sin. What you doing? Because Yeshua came to deliver us from sin. Kata. He came to Yasha, to save, to rescue, to remove us from a position of sin, which means to be in a quality of life that is beneath the righteousness of Yahuwah, the righteousness of the Torah. Understand this. So every time you see somebody that look a little prettier than you and you try to trip them up, that's an act of hatred, murder. Every time you get jealous at somebody and create a lie. I've been victims of this, so I know the potential in people to do this. Just out of the blue, just make up a story. You put it out there. That's an act of murder. Okay? So we don't want to be in that character. We want to escape the characteristics of the system that has taken darkness and made it appear as light. Okay? Especially in America. We think we can be all and do all. Some of the most uncivilized and savage people, emotionally and mentally, that exist on this planet. I know, because I was one of them. I thought being American was the greatest thing on earth, until Yahweh opened up my eyes and seen the destruction that existed within my soul. I really thought it was freedom. I really thought everybody else was enslaved in the world. I was just as blind and deceived as anyone else. But I'm not deceived anymore. And I will not practice or facilitate within a culture and a system of hatred. I do only what is required to me. Give taxes, give what is to Caesar, what belongs to Caesar, but give unto Elohim what belongs to Elohim. And Elohim is love, and he that loveth is born of Elohim. Remember that. He that loveth. What is love? If you love me, keep my commandments. If you're not walking in obedience of the commandments, then you're walking in the darkness of hatred, which is murder. Shalom Aleichem. Okay. We're going to end right here. Everybody got all their notes together? Any questions? No. we'll do it. If you got questions, we'll do questions. One or two. Any questions?
What's that word? Kayyib?
Oh yeah, that's from Kai. Root is Kai. Kef, Fatah, Kai means life.
But in this,
yeah, it's Kayyib. Kayyib. Kayyib.
Still means life?
Yeah, it still got the root.
Okay.
Okay. Kayyib.
Okay.
Okay, as long as it still got the root, it retains that meaning. That's why you got to know the root words.
Okay.
Okay. From Kai, or we in the feminine is Kai. Kaya. That's the feminine. Kaya. To be.
Okay.
To live. Being. Having existence. Okay.
Okay.
So Kayi means life. Yeah. It's just another form. It's got a probably an Aramaic ending to it, like a lot of it. In Yeshua's time, Aramaic was predominant. They were Hebrew speakers. You know, it's just like I speak Swahili. You know, a lot of times when I'm speaking to Swahili-speaking people, we'll go in and out from Swahili and English. It's kind of mixed up. And so you can kind of see from reading this manuscript, there's a lot of Hebrew with Aramaic.
Okay.
You got a lot of Aramaic endings on a lot of Hebrew words. Okay, so it was kind of a mixture, and I presume that Kayyib is an example of that, but it comes from Kai or Kaya. I put hay up there, but it should be Kef. Okay, Kaya, that's life. Okay, so when we go through this manuscript, you'll find some of the endings are Aramaic endings and not the Hebrew endings. But that happens when you have cultural mixture, especially with language, you know, especially in the lower class. You know, Matthiu, who wrote this, he was a Hebrew speaker, because in those days the upper class spoke the Hebrew and the lower class spoke Ebonics. Yeah, you know, so there's a lot of slang, metaphors, you know, I mean, you see that in every culture among the poor. You know, they have their own type of language in England and Africa and everywhere that I've been. You know what I mean? You see that, and different people that I meet, you know, to hear and then hear is like, okay, that's a whole different Swahili than what she spoke. She spoke, like one dude told me, he said, you speak Kiswahili, it's that proper Swahili. Yeah. That's why you don't understand what I'm saying. I'm speaking a lot of slang. You know, for me, it's about a Yaakov. What's happening? When I was greeted one time, Yipe. I didn't know what it was. What? I never heard it. You know, but that's slang for what's up. Yipe. So I learned something. You know, from a, you know. So let's end here and take this in mind. We're going to get into these are the teachings of righteousness. This is all I'm going to be teaching. I used to try to teach the higher echelon of the word, but you know, we ain't ready for it. People are not ready for it. They're not ready to make the sacrifice to engage it. Okay? When you get people and they ain't ready, then they'll attack it and destroy themselves. So we're going to stay with the practical teachings of righteousness, and we're going to see, okay, what we need to see through these next few verses on why I particularly, and why you particularly, should stand adamantly against race supremacist culture. It is a system of hatred, and it is a murderous tool used to destroy and to kill the vitality of the human soul. Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem.